The sudden appearance of United States amphibious forces on Venezuela's northern coast has drawn global attention and sparked heated debates in both political and military circles. Caracas, the Venezuelan capital, appeared unprepared for this maneuver, which some analysts describe as one of the most dramatic demonstrations of American power projection in recent years. For decades, relations between the United States and Venezuela have been tense, characterized by diplomatic disputes, economic sanctions, and ideological rivalries. Washington has long criticized Caracas for its governance, human rights record, and alliances with countries such as Russia, China, and Iran. Against this backdrop, the arrival of amphibious troops on Venezuelan shores represents more than a military exercise. It is a political message with far-reaching implications. Amphibious operations have historically been used by the United States as symbols of military readiness and strategic dominance. Deploying specialized troops by sea demonstrates the ability to intervene rapidly and decisively in contested regions. Venezuela's northern coastline is not only a domestic stronghold, but also a key entry point into the Caribbean, making it strategically valuable for control of maritime trade routes and regional influence. The Venezuelan government has condemned the arrival of U.S. forces, describing it as a violation of sovereignty and an act of provocation. Officials in Caracas insist that the nation's territorial integrity is under threat and have urged international organizations, including the United Nations, to take action. For President Nicolás Maduro and his administration, this event provides both a challenge and an opportunity. A challenge to national security, but also a chance to rally domestic and international support against perceived foreign aggression. Meanwhile, Washington has remained vague about its intentions. U.S. officials claim that the amphibious landing was part of routine military exercises and not directed specifically at Venezuela. However, critics argue that such an operation, carried out so close to Venezuelan territory, cannot be separated from the broader political tensions between the two nations. The ambiguity surrounding U.S. objectives has only fueled speculation and heightened fears of escalation. The regional impact of this development is equally significant. Neighboring countries in Latin America are watching closely, worried that Venezuela could become the epicenter of a larger confrontation. For nations already struggling with internal challenges, the prospect of instability spreading across the Caribbean basin is deeply concerning. At the same time, some U.S. allies in the region see the maneuver as a reaffirmation of Washington's commitment to maintaining influence in the hemisphere. Global reactions have been divided. Russia and China, both strategic partners of Venezuela, have criticized the United States, warning that such military actions risk undermining international stability. On the other hand, some Western powers have quietly expressed support for Washington, interpreting the amphibious presence as a deterrent against what they view as authoritarian consolidation in Caracas. This polarization reflects the complex geopolitics surrounding Venezuela and its role in global power competition. Domestically, the arrival of foreign troops near Venezuelan waters has sparked mixed emotions among citizens. While government supporters decry the event as imperial aggression, segments of the opposition argue that the U.S. presence highlights the failures of the Maduro regime. The situation has deepened political divides within the country, complicating efforts to build consensus on national security. From a strategic perspective, the amphibious landing raises questions about the future of U.S.-Venezuela relations. Will this maneuver remain a symbolic show of force, or is it a prelude to more direct intervention? Analysts caution that missteps on either side could escalate into open conflict, a scenario that would have devastating consequences not only for Venezuela, but also for the entire region. Ultimately, the surprise landing of U.S. amphibious troops on Venezuela's coast underscores the fragility of regional stability in Latin America. For Caracas, the challenge lies in defending sovereignty while avoiding military confrontation. For Washington, the risk is balancing deterrence with diplomacy. As the world watches, this episode serves as a reminder that even a single maneuver at sea. The episode also brings renewed focus on the Caribbean as a contested geopolitical space. Historically, the region has been viewed by the United States as part of its strategic sphere of influence, dating back to the Monroe Doctrine in the 19th century. Venezuela's alignment with extra-hemispheric powers, particularly Russia and China, has challenged that dominance. turning the country into a symbolic battleground for influence between Washington and its global rivals. Energy politics further complicate the situation. Venezuela possesses some of the largest proven oil reserves in the world, and its resources have long been entangled in the nation's foreign policy struggles. The presence of U.S. amphibious troops near Venezuelan shores inevitably revives debates about whether military posturing is tied to securing energy interests. While American officials deny such motives, critics in Latin America often interpret these maneuvers as an extension of resource-driven geopolitics. Another layer of complexity lies in international law. Military landings near the territory of a sovereign nation raise questions about maritime boundaries, freedom of navigation, and the right to self-defense. Caracas has already argued that the operation violates its sovereignty under the United Nations Charter. If the matter escalates to international forums, it could set a precedent for how states interpret and respond to military maneuvers conducted under the guise of exercises. Civil society actors in Venezuela and abroad have also begun weighing in. Human rights organizations warn that any escalation could exacerbate the country's ongoing humanitarian crisis, which has already displaced millions of Venezuelans across the region. The fear is that military tensions could further destabilize fragile communities, disrupt aid delivery, and worsen the plight of ordinary citizens who are already enduring economic hardship. At the same time, the event provides fertile ground for propaganda and information warfare. State media in Venezuela have used the amphibious arrival to rally nationalist sentiment and reinforce narratives of external threats. Conversely, some U.S. outlets frame the incident as evidence of Washington's enduring commitment to democracy in Latin America. Competing narratives not only shape domestic opinion, but also influence how international audiences interpret the crisis. Looking ahead, much will depend on whether the situation remains a symbolic standoff or evolves into a prolonged confrontation. Diplomacy remains a potential pathway, yet the deep mistrust between Washington and Caracas makes meaningful dialogue difficult. Regional organizations such as the Organization of American States, OAS, or the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, may attempt to mediate, but their effectiveness is uncertain given the polarized alignments among member states. In the end, the amphibious landing off Venezuela's coast highlights how quickly localized maneuvers can escalate into global flashpoints. It reflects the broader reality that military actions, even when described as routine, cannot be divorced from the geopolitical context in which they occur. For Venezuela, the event is a reminder of its vulnerable position in the global order. For the United States, it underscores both the opportunities and risks of asserting power so close to an adversary's heartland.